We all know those terrible covers that have been recorded of artists.
Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo.
Easy friend, I do. With the head to hand, I do. Think you fit this too, I do. But you have a clue.
Recently, Rick Beato did a video on whether or not Eddie Van Halen is uncopyable. It wasn't really an argument video rather than emphasizing that he was an extremely original artist. It had me thinking on whether or not artists are uncopyable. Let's take someone like Guthrie Govan. He can mimic most guitarists as he has transcribed their licks, tone, pick attack, and technique. I think with him he thinks of music as a language.
First one is easy. Don't rely on tablature for everything. Because you end up playing the way a parrot talks. All you can do is play what's in the tablature. If you train yourself to use your ears so that you can copy the music around you, then one day when you need to write your own music or improvise, you can copy the music you hear in your head just as easily. So I think it's important to develop your ears. That's really the best tip.
With practice, you can mimic anyone. Look how many people can play a Dream Theater cover on YouTube. That doesn't necessarily translate into being able to play the language of John Petrucci. It just means you're being able to play the sheet music presented to you. I think these two things are entirely different. Sure, you can play an Eddie Van Halen solo, but do you know his vocabulary to make your own solo? And can you rely mostly on your ear, not the tablature provided? Can you learn his vocabulary yourself and naturally and not have to rely on tabs or pre-existing licks handed to you on a silver spoon? The goal should be to listen to Eddie Van Halen or any guitarist of your choosing, and listen to them enough where you would be able to make your own licks in their own style without having to necessarily copy note for note from their recording. And I think Guthrie has the ability to do this. He's obviously listened to those guitarists, and he didn't necessarily know their solos note by note, but he listened to them enough where he could transcribe his own lick in the style of that guitar player. With my own playing, instead of just transcribing exactly what is being played 100% accurately, I take a step back and I really listen. Let's take Zach Wild. I've listened to him a great deal and I've noticed certain licks, patterns, and ideas he uses in his shreddy solos. I then creatively transcribed a few of his licks and made my own with his music. I think transcribing something 100% accurately is a bit of a waste of time because you're more focused on the details rather than the bigger picture. I think covering certain artists might be harder because they have an out there sound. Some artists include Stravinsky, Alan Holdsworth, Jacob Collier. There are people that can cover Holdsworth, Collier, Stravinsky, but it's always such a difficult task as their sound is just so unique to them. Singers tend to be this way too. Most Nirvana covers, I would say, are kind of bad. Don't get me started on that Puddle of Mud cover of About a Girl. Anyways, I think that in general, for musicians that primarily focus on instrumentation, it might be easier to mimic an artist because you can just play the notes or you can kind of mimic the gear or tone that they use. But with artists that incorporate so many different things like Stravinsky or Jacob Collier, it might be harder to kind of fully cover that artist. Besides, at that point, why would you want to? Because Jacob Collier and Stravinsky are more composers than they are actual musicians, and I feel as though if you're just going to be a composition person, you might as well just take elements of other people's music, but you should really only be striving to be original. Thank you so much for viewing that. I really appreciate it. Let me know if you disagree in the comments. I have a Discord server for transcriptions or music discussions, so please join that if you're interested. I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you subscribe.